Today, we will be exploring the topic of life in the West. One thing that was different in the West compared to the East was that women gave a big contribution to society, which led lawmakers in the West to ask the government to give women the right to vote. Women in the West also had more rights than women in the East. Women in the West lived on homesteads, and since husbands were away and families weren't very close to others, women had to become doctors and teachers to their family. Some women even became sheriffs. When Wyoming wanted to become a state, Congress wanted them to repeal its women's suffrage law. Wyoming refused and Congress backed down. By 1900, women could vote in Colorado, Utah, and Idaho. Cities in the West seemed to grow suddenly, like a weed in a field. Gold and silver strikes made Denver and San Francisco's population grow rapidly. San Francisco went from a small town to 25,000 people in just 1 year, after the gold rush in 1849. When people came to the West to try their luck in the gold rush, many miners stopped at Denver to buy supplies. By 1867, Denver had become the capital of Colorado Territory. A decade later, Denver was the capital of the state of Colorado. Denver's population soared when they built a railroad to connect that town to the Transcontinental Railroad. Railroads also brought growth to Omaha, Nebraska, and Portland, Oregon. Omaha flourished as a meat processing area for cattle ranches. Portland became center for fish and grain and lumber. When the Southwest, New Mexico, Texas, Arizona, and California was annexed due to the American-Mexican War, as the Spanish people before them, or Mexicanos, lost their homeland and power. As white settlers, called Anglos by the Mexicanos, flocked to these areas, Mexicanos lost economic and political power as well as land. As Mexicanos were losing everything in other states, New Mexico Territory was the only area where Hispanic society survived. In 1866, the U.S. created African American soldiers and sent them into the West and Southwest to serve. Native Americans nicknamed them Buffalo Soldiers. Although there were still racial conflicts between the Army, provided basic education and opportunity for African Americans. America started loving the West in the late 1800s. Easterners bought dime novels, cheap short stories about adventure to learn about the West. Although sometimes the heroes were real people like Calamity Jane or Wyatt Earp, the stories were fiction or exaggerated events of actual incidents. Native Americans were usually the villains, white settlers were the heroes, and African Americans, they didn't appear at all. William Buffalo Bill Cody brought the West to all places through his Wild West show. The myth of the exciting West overlooked many contributions by other people. The first cowhands were the Mexican vaqueros, as well as Native Americans and African Americans. Railroads would not have been built without the Chinese immigrant labor. Stories about Native American raids overlooked misunderstandings and broken treaties. The self-reliant Westerners overlooked the help of the government, which they drove away Native Americans and built railroads.